come to this particular part for the purpose of discussion. Mr. Y, age 73 years, citizen of India, visits India every year for 55 days. The moment it is less than 60 days, straight away you will become non-resident. Okay, straight away. Okay. Now, you are already citizen of India. The details have been given to me. Will your answer be different if you stay in India during the previous year is 125 days? That means you are crossing 120 days limit. Okay. So, Indian income tax. Now, it seems that profit, one of the entry only I am taking, profits from business in China controlled from USA, 50% is received in India. So, after 80 lakhs, 40 lakhs is already received. That means 15 lakh rupees is already your Indian income is already crossing 15 lakhs of rupees. Okay. So, in that particular case, 120 days test will be applicable. And where that 120 days test is applicable, straight away you will become not ordinarily resident. Okay. So, if it is 125 days, then you will become not ordinarily resident in India in this particular situation. So, either of the two residential status is possible. Okay, in this situation. Now, let's give the answer. Now, not ordinarily resident and non-resident, first of all, computation-wise, it will be the same only. Only one of the major difference will be like business control from India test. Otherwise, in both the residential status, computation-wise, by and large, it is going to be the same. Okay. Now, see. 1. Dividend from a German company paid by TT transfer from Germany to Merrill Lynch Bank account in USA. So, it is received outside India and it is accrued also outside India. So, this particular money will not be taxable in India. Okay. Dividend from Japanese company paid by TT transfer from Japan to State Bank of India, Telangana. So, wherever there is a transfer here, transfer of money, the place where the receiving branch is situated. So, it is in India. So, you are receiving in a State Bank account in India, and that means it will be taxable in India because you have received in India. Net of TDS as per Germany, the law is 90,000. So, I'll of course gross it up, and 1 lakh rupees will become taxable in India. Now, these taxes that you are paying in the foreign country, okay, I have to gross it up because the gross amount of the dividend will have to be considered for this particular purpose. So, this will be taxable 1 lakh rupees. Okay. Now, dividend from Indian company Reliance Industries. So, it will of course be taxable because it will always be deemed to occur or arise in India. Point number 4. Commission income from procuring garments sales in Cyprus. Okay. Garment sales in Cyprus. That means accrued outside India. And let's check whether it is received in India or not. Mr. A, resident in India, paid this money by online transfer from his State Bank account of Bhatinda to Mr. Y, Merrill Lynch Bank in USA. So, your receiving branch is in USA, so you have received outside India. Now, Mr. A is claimed it as a business expense while computing the income in India. So, this is a commission income that you are getting it. And this particular commission income, first of all, will not be covered by, what should I say, Section 9. Okay, because royalty technical fees is covered. So, this commission in relation to business in India and all that test will not be applicable because it is not covered by Section 9 concept. Okay, and you are claiming it as a business expense. That means you are making necessary book entry in the books of accounts, expense account, debit to that person's account credit, Mr. Y's account credit. So, this entry, credit entry in the books of accounts does not amount to receipt in India. Time and again, I have already explained that to you. So, it is not received in India. In fact, it is received in USA as per the concept. That means received outside India, accrued also outside India. So, this money will not be taxable in India. Okay. Now, come to this particular point. Point number 5. Profit and sale of garment consignment in USA to Mr. Hari in USA. Okay. So, it is generally understood that it is already sold outside India. It is understood like that. But this particular gentleman, Hari in USA, so you have done transaction in USA, but Hari is a resident in India. Okay. And he is working under instruction of Mr. Y. So, what is the situation here? Mr. Y is in contact with Mr. Hari. Now, Mr. Y and Mr. Hari is doing certain transactions in America, but Hari is basically resident. Hari is an agent of Mr. Y. Why? Because he is working under the instruction of Mr. Y. Okay. So, agent principal one and the same. You can also say it is a principal agent relationship. And Hari is selling further this particular consignment to other customers in India. Okay, so the transaction which is done between Mr. Y and Hari, whatever is the profit, this profit will become taxable in India because it is principal to agent relationship. Okay, that means ultimately it is understood like that this Mr. Y is selling goods in India through an agent, Mr. Hari. Okay, and therefore whatever is the profit on sale of that transaction, which is in fact outside India, will also be taxable in India of this particular gentleman. See, if you want to imagine the perfect way of this particular transaction, because normally this is a transaction where the students will always confuse. Still, it is foreign country. It is a foreign country, India. Okay. Hari is resident in India and Mr. Y is outside India. Okay. Mr. Y is doing, having some cost and he is doing some sales. Okay. On this, there is a profit of 50,000. This sales is done actually to Mr. Hari. And that's a transaction. Basically, this 50,000 rupees is profit of Mr. Y out of the sale in the foreign country. This is how it is understood. But this Mr. Hari is basically his agent. So Hari is now bringing the goods in India. Hari is doing all that. So Hari is said to have brought goods in India, and now Hari is selling to the customers in India. Okay, and on this transaction, again Hari is going to make some profit. I assume that the profit is 60,000. I assume that this profit is 60,000. So this profit will be taxable in India, but it will be taxable in the hands of the Hari as an agent of the non-resident. So our question is, we are doing the computation for Mr. Y. So basically the profit on sale of goods, and that is also a sale in the foreign country. Okay, but it is a transaction done with the agent, and ultimate sale is inside India. That means ultimately it is an agent in India, and therefore it will be chargeable to tax in India 50,000 rupees, and this 50,000 rupees is included in the computation of Mr. Y, because this entire computation that we are doing is for Mr. Y, who is citizen of India. Okay, I guess that this transaction is very, very clear. Now, point number 6, profit from business in Indonesia, controlled from India. Now, since it is controlled from India, it will be taxable where your residential status is not ordinarily resident. However, 50% is received in India. So, what is received in India will be taxable in both the residential status, not ordinarily resident and even a non-resident. But 13 lakhs, which is because due to control from India, that means actually it is not received in India, not accrued in India, but it is controlled from India. That 13 lakhs will be taxable where your status is not ordinarily resident, and that balance 50% will not be taxable to the non-resident. This will be one of the key difference in computation of not ordinarily resident and the non-resident. Point number 7. Profit from business in China. Business in China, that means accrued outside India. Control from US. So it is control also from outside India. 50% is received in India. So what is received in India will be taxable. Control is also from outside India, so we are not bothered. So what is received in India, 50%, so 40 lakhs will be taxable for both the residential status, not ordinarily resident, and the non-resident in this particular situation. Now come to this particular question, and friends, before I just go ahead, let me tell you that see this particular gentleman, non-resident in India. So in the given question, that residential status discussion is not required. Now friends, let me tell you that many interest types which are specified under section 10. Under section 10, friends, there are a big list of different types of interest which is given exemption to the non-resident. See, in the given situation, these particular funds are used by an Indian concern, will be deemed to accrue or rise in India, of course. So, normally section 9 concept will be applicable. It is deemed to accrue or rise in India, no doubt about that. But it will be exempt under section 10 if it is specified under section 10. Okay. So, I think I'll just tell you that you can just go through this one type reading of all these relevant Barrett extract that I've already given it to you. Okay, so you can just go through these hardcore basic points, all different types of interest on different bonds and all that kind of situation. Okay, so that will be exempt, and otherwise the section 9 concept will be applicable, that if it is in relation to the funds which are used in the business in India and you are receiving from a resident person, it will be deemed to accrue. That concept of section 9 equally is applicable. Okay, so interest on NRE account is exempt. Okay, Interest on scheduled bank RBI approved FCNR deposit, that is basically the foreign currency deposit. On that there is some interest, that is also exempt. Interest on deposit with offshore banking unit, basically this unit covered by SEZ, Special Economic Zone, but that is also exempt, okay, under section 10. Interest on NRO account with the State Bank of India. So this is not exempt, this is taxable. This is NRO account, this is basically the ordinary account. NRE is a non-resident external account and NRO account is a non-resident ordinary account, just like your rupee account, no? What ordinary bank account you have, the same thing. So yours and mine is an NRO account. That way you can say, okay, so we are inside in a normal rupee account with the bank that we already maintain. So interest on that particular sum is of course taxable in India. And so out of this particular one, this 25,600 will become taxable in India. Now friends, come to this particular question. This is one of the very old examination type question. Now there is a bank situation, and in that particular bank it has got actually this is a foreign bank, banking business incorporated in Melbourne, Australia. It branches in different countries during the year Indian branch. So it is basically the in India the Indian branch of a foreign bank. It is a Indian branch of a foreign bank. Okay, it has paid interest of 20 lakhs and 15 lakhs respectively to its offices in head office in Melbourne and in California. Okay, so two foreign countries you are making. So basically see these two overseas branch of the bank would have given you funds. Okay, and these funds are used in the business in India. Okay, and on that you are paying interest. So after all, the funds are used in the business in India. Okay, and one more important point that you better remember, that this is a branch. Okay, a branch is not a separate legal entity in general, but from the taxation assessment point of view, to be considered as a separate unit altogether. I repeat, a branch is normally not a separately assessable entity. It is not a separate assessee. It is only a branch. Okay, but from the taxation point of view, this branch will be regarded as a separately assessable entity. Okay, and there are some clarifications on this particular front. Okay, and therefore this particular branch, the funds are used for the business in India. So section 9 deemed to accrue or arise in India concept etc. will be applicable, and the entire interest, that is 20 plus 15, will be taxable in India of that particular Melbourne and Australia branch. Okay, so whatever, because see, Melbourne is receiving interest income. Okay, understand like that. Okay, supposing 20, I think Melbourne is 20. Let me just check. 20 and 15 respect to Melbourne and California. Okay, Melbourne is 20. So Melbourne is receiving interest income of 20. Okay, so this Melbourne branch will be taxable for this particular income in India. Why? Because these funds, you are receiving interest from another branch, but it is on the funds which are used in India, and therefore it will become taxable in India. So Melbourne will be taxable, and this California branch will also be taxable in India for the interest income. Now come to this particular question. In this particular question, you are a foreign company and you are making some profit on sale of this particular crude oil. Okay, and 20 lakh rupees, you are required to discuss the transaction. See, under section 10, there are few provisions where any Indian currency profit of a foreign company on account of the sale of crude oil. So normally the crude oil, no international transaction in foreign currency, but with some of the countries, India has an arrangement to make payment only in Indian rupees. Okay, so that particular Indian currency profit, which is notified by the central government, is exempt under these particular provisions. Okay. Secondly, friends, even if there is any storage of crude oil by the foreign company, and that particular profit out of the storage of this particular crude oil will also be exempt under this particular provisions. And if there is any leftover stock of the crude oil from the facility, and after the expiry of the arrangement or the agreement, if there is any leftover, and if you made any profits on that, that is also exempt. So basically, INR profits with respect to the crude oil transaction is given an exemption. So I will say that this particular transaction is fully exempt under section 10 of the Income Tax Act.